ये रेडियो पाकिस्तान पॉडकास्ट है।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to a special podcast of Radio Pakistan's News and Current Affairs channel. My name is Hassan Gillani and we are bringing this program to you in connection with the Kashmir Solidarity Day, the day which is observed every year on 5th of February to reiterate Pakistan's unflinching and unwavering support to the Kashmiri brethren and highlight this issue. Now, to discuss this issue, we have a very esteemed panel with us. We have in our studios Mr. Altaf Hussain Wani, who is the chairman of the Kashmir Institute of International Relations. Assalamu alaikum. And we have also in our studios Dr. Sobia Hanif, who is assistant professor of international relations at the Fatma Jinnah Women's University. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being on this show, on this special program, both of you. Now, 5th of February is observed as the Solidarity Day to reiterate Pakistan's commitment to continue its diplomatic, political, and moral support for the people of Kashmiris who are fighting their legitimate struggle for the right to self-determination promised by the United Nations Security Council. This inalienable right is being denied to the Kashmiris. So on this day, since 1990, we have been observing this day to mark our commitment and mark our support for the Kashmiri people. Now, let's start the discussion. Let me ask you, Dr. Altaf Hussain Wani, this day is observed every year. It has been observed since 1990. How is this day different or more significant this year? Because a lot has happened over the last 1 year. We have seen that an important world capital, its president, Donald Trump, President of the United States, has said that he is ready to play a role to facilitate a solution of the issue of Kashmir between India and Pakistan. This is something that India never wanted to see or hear from the world's most powerful leader or the country coming, because India has been trying to evade and drag its feet on the issue. How does the Kashmir issue has evolved over the years? How is it different this year? What's the increased significance of this day?
Thank you, Gillani sir, for having me. Actually, the day was this is always an important and significant day for the people of Kashmir, because those voices who have been silenced, those voices who have their dissent has been criminalized, and those voices are being amplified by the people of Pakistan, by the government of Pakistan, by the political parties of Pakistan every year on this day. Although people of Pakistan have been on the side of people of Kashmir, always they have supported their just cause for right to self-determination and has also given you the sacrifice for that. But having said that, this year, why it is so important, we have seen 2025 had a very transformed the whole world, especially after and the Operation Sindoor, which India conducted, and they fired some missiles on our civilian population and caused civilian casualties over there. And thereafter, the Pakistan showed restraint for a certain period of time. But then the response from Pakistan, Operation Zarb-e-Haq, and that the victory Pakistan achieved of that. And we could see that Pakistan's re-emergence on the international map as one of the peacemakers in the world. We have seen since then Pakistan on each and every international forum being invited, being greeted, being encouraged to participate in international forums.
Right.
So this peace summit, the Gaza Peace Summit, which is being held, the peace deal, which is being held this time in Davos, where our Prime Minister signed this agreement there. It shows the commitment of the people of Pakistan, the government of Pakistan, on one side to the people of Palestine, that they don't want, there are critics of this deal also, but the Pakistan wants to be there to protect the Palestinians. Our aim to be there is to protect Palestine. And since the Kashmir is one of the main causes why Pakistan and India relations have been fragile over the last 8 decades. So it's a prime time for Pakistan to, I think, the window of opportunity which emerged after the May incidents, that is to be capitalized. We have to get the international community with us, that we want peace, we are for peace, and we want their participation in peace. The people of Kashmir who have endured the endless sufferings at the hands of the Indian occupation, and India has denied the just right to them, And that's why this day is this year. It's very much important to amplify the Pakistani support to the people of
Right.
Kashmir and to give the people of Kashmir again a message that they are not uh, alone in their fight against the Indian oppression.
Right.
The whole nation of Pakistan is with them, and Pakistan at all international levels has been advocating their
Right.
cause and will.
Okay, let me ask you, Dr. Sobia Hanif, despite all the efforts made from Pakistan's and by the important world capitals, important international institutions, we have seen that the suppression, the repression, and the exploitation in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir is continuing unabated. Whether it's the political exploitation, we have seen that there is delimitation exercise, the seats of Hindus are being increased, the seats of Muslims are being decreased. Mainland investment is being made in Kashmir despite the fact it's a disputed area. And then cultural invasion, mosques are being demolished, mandirs are being established. The identity crisis is raging in Kashmir. This demographic engineering is continuing in Kashmir. Who is going to stop that in the region which has been declared disputed, which needs resolution, and the people of Kashmir have been denied their right to self-determination? Who is going to check this discrepancy?
I think that's a very important question you've asked me, and I would like a little time to explain on it a little bit. When we talk about the people of Jammu and Kashmir, they have been besieged by the Indian government, by the Indian state, and we are well aware of it that they have continued to fight for the right of self-determination for over 7 decades now. When we talk about the current turmoil in Jammu and Kashmir and the latest, human rights violations of their economic rights, their security and educational rights, their opportunities for employment, above all, the crisis of identity that is taking place on ground in Jammu and Kashmir. And I think we need to first of all shed light on it. Who is going to stop it comes a little later. I think first, I think the important part here is we need to understand how India is actually carrying out all of these activities. How is it getting away right in front of the world when I think there's a lot of transparency in the world as of now compared to what was there maybe previously, let's say in the past 2 decades or so. Reason being that the media has given a lot of exposure. So how India is carrying that out right in front of the world, I think we need to shed light on that. And I think it is Pakistan's responsibility to become the voice of the people of Jammu and Kashmir who are voiceless and to expose the Indian designs in this case. I'll take a few minutes in explaining, for instance, how, and if you would allow me, so perhaps touching back upon, the abrogation of Article 370 with this latest conflict is kind of carried forward. If we look at this Article 370, it gave the people of Kashmir a special autonomous status. It gave them certain rights. And this was made part of the Indian Constitution as a precondition, even if we take it from the Indian position, to be part of India. So it is even if we take their position on this. So once that Article 370 and 35 years removed, what is the basis of India's association whatsoever with India in this case? There is none. How did they do that to begin with? I think India has been creating this false narrative for the world to see that the reason why they have done this is to ensure development in Jammu and Kashmir, in order to provide equal opportunity for all the people in Jammu and Kashmir, to eradicate terrorism. These are entirely wrong narratives. The actual reality is that this Article 370, it can only be, or it could have only be removed or abrogated by the consent of the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir. That did not exist. That had already been dissolved back in 1957. So what they had done was that there was a coalition government. I think Wani Sahib is fully aware of this, that a coalition government was in place in Jammu and Kashmir. We're talking about back in 2018. And the PDP, as well as the BJP, they were in a coalition government. So due to their differences, the BJP withdrew from there, the government fell, there was no longer a government in place. The governor was, of course, in charge of the affairs of Jammu and Kashmir. And the governor is not the representative of the people. He's the representative of the
I'm
president.
glad you brought that up, this issue of false narrative, Wani Sahib. This day is being observed, the Kashmir Solidarity Day is being observed at a time when India is trying to mislead and hoodwink the world by painting a completely false picture of what is happening in Kashmir. They are trying to portray Kashmir as a normal region, whereas on the contrary, this report published by your organization, the Kashmir Institute of International Relations, it suggests that the repression and oppression in Kashmir is mounting. The civil space has shrunken more than ever before. So, do you believe that the world is going to buy India's argument that there is normalcy in Kashmir, there is tourism going on, there is political activity going on? Is the world so naive that India is going to be so easily and so effectively hoodwinking or dodging the world? Do you think so?
See, Gillani Sahab, already India has been exposed on this front already. The false narrative which Madam Sobia was telling us that India, the way they abrogate Article 370 and 35A and the plea they took at that time, what will happen in Kashmir? There will be development, there will be this thing and that thing, there will be equal opportunities for the people of Kashmir. But as this report suggests, and overall statistics from the Indian government suggest that the unemployment rate in Kashmir has, Indian occupied Kashmir has risen since then. And we have seen the latest, the developments which took place. India introduced some 800 laws which were not the part of the constitution of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Those laws were enacted over there in order to annex the Kashmir and disempower the people of Jammu and Kashmir, especially the Muslims of Kashmir. The main motive behind all this was to disempower the people of Kashmir. Now, how India sold this narrative, it was because of all of this, because of this media warfare. India tried to create such an atmosphere around the globe that everything is fine in Kashmir. There is normalcy, there is rail, road link, and all these things.
Sure.
But when the international observers, they look at on it, and we have seen the reports from the Amnesty International, we saw the reports from the Human Rights Watch soon after this Pahalgam incident, and then the UN special rapporteurs, 10 UN special rapporteurs issued a special communication to the government of India that how government of India used the Pahalgam incident to collectively punish the people of Kashmir. Some 84 people were killed in that period of time, and some more than 24 houses in that period from May 10th to September 25th, when that report was released, that some more than 24 houses were demolished at that time. If we will talk of the demolition in Kashmir, hundreds and thousands of houses and civil structures were demolished by the Indian forces. That is to inflict the collective punishment to the people of Kashmir. It's not of one side. Now we have seen that India sold to the world that there is a rail and a road construction in Kashmir. They are going to have a Bharat rail into Kashmir. But when we see the rail link whereby it is being connected, it is to strangulate the economics of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, the livelihood of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Some 7 lakh trees will be cut, apple trees will be cut if that rail is that rail link is established. You can yourself say that that area is basically the apple basket as well as the livelihood basket of the Kashmir, where from all these things come. That is being eroded. Not to talk of the environmental degradation, what they are creating by this. And what is the main purpose of this is to make the people of Kashmir dependent on India. They should be dependent on India. They should not be no more that they are they earn their own, they produce their own fruit, they produce their own handicrafts and all these things. But India is trying to strangulate their economic activities. And when we talk of the identity and all that, that we have talked many times, that the main motto of the Indians is to change the demographics of Kashmir, is to change the identity, the very identity of Kashmir, the culture of Kashmir. They are on that to erode that. But their narrative at international level, I think, if you go to the think tank reports of the international stature, you could see that this narrative has not been taken by the international community.
We'll also come to the issue of Pahalgam and the operation by Pakistani forces, the Banyan al-Marsus operation, which taught India a lesson. But before that, I'd like to come to you, Dr. Sobia, because that's exactly why this Kashmir Solidarity Day is observed every year, to remind the world that this is an issue. And unless and until this issue is resolved, peace and stability will continue to evade South Asia. So no matter how skillful or how tactical the efforts by India are to hoodwink the international community, Pakistan will continue to raise the issue. And Pakistan's media, Pakistan's professors, Pakistan's political commentators and activists like you, of course, will try to and will keep on trying to apprise the world of the ground realities in Kashmir. Now, coming back to the issue of exploitation, and Dr. Sobia, we have seen that there is different dimensions of exploitation. It's political dimension, there's economic dimension, cultural dimension, religious dimension. The fact that now non-Kashmiris are being made to settle inside the valley of Kashmir is leading towards a disaster for the Kashmiri youth in particular. They are being deprived of their legal rights, their economic rights, their jobs are being lost. How is the overall scenario shaping up in Kashmir in the backdrop of this constant and multi-dimensional exploitation going on in Kashmir?
I think I'll just take it forward from where Wani Saab has kind of left, and I can find a very interesting parallel as well, very sad parallel as well. When we're talking about chopping down and destroying apple trees, at the same time you see Israel destroying, olive farms, and kind of, which is one of the major sources of their economy. So there's a lot of parallel in both of these cases. And in many cases, you will see that India is also taking inspiration and saying, many of its leaders, by the way, are also saying that, what Israel has done in Palestine, perhaps we should also do and teach a lesson to Pakistan and to the people of Kashmir. So unfortunately, this is the mindset with which they are going forward. I think as Israel has been exposed to the world, initially the Western world was not buying the narrative and looking at, Israel's perspective more sympathetically. Now I think that has been exposed, and so is the case with, I think, Kashmir as well, because of Pakistan's continued efforts. I think now the world can see what really is going on in Kashmir. From the Indian side, they have tried everything possible. One very small example in this case is the way that they divided Kashmir in itself. So the British has this policy, colonial era of divide and rule. But when you look at how the BJP government is carrying it forward, it's about divide, diminish, and rule. It's about diminishing the entire identity of the Kashmiri people, making them invisible, so that the world cannot see them, the world cannot hear them. And I think where Pakistan is, I think, very transparent is like when Pakistan says to the international community that you can come on ground, see the situation. We have nothing to hide.
As you said, that the world, they want that the world does not listen to the voices in Kashmir. Dissenting voices in Kashmir are being gagged, are being muzzled through the use of force. The media is being gagged. We have seen that journalists have been intimidated, have been attacked. Even the legitimate journalists who want to present a balanced, objective picture of what is happening in Kashmir, they have been silenced. So how is the world? I mean, we, of course, outside the Kashmir, all the forces are trying their level best, but within the valley, the occupied valley, voices which want to speak for themselves are being silenced. How does that damage, or how does that jeopardize the legitimacy of this issue?
Well, I think that is a real concern. It is a real concern because clearly the kind of draconian laws that India has placed in Kashmir in various ways and forms, not only are they, subjugating the people to all kinds of human rights violations, but at the same time, like you said, they are trying to, suppress them and kind of suppress their voices in this case. The people of Kashmir are not people to settle down. They are not willing to settle with India. It is the only, as we are aware of it, the only Muslim majority region in India, and the way it has been, cut up and chopped into different pieces, made into a union territory now. And the way it has been done is also done to diminish the majority of the Muslims and their voice in this case. That is a challenge, but I think the people of Kashmir are still rising up. They're very brave people, and I think with every avenue they are trying. And then again, I think there are people on the other side of the border as well who are also trying to become their voice. I think that is that is what we can do given the circumstances.
Mr. Wani, India seems to be not a believer in any form of law at all, whether it's the national law, international law, or local law, unless and until the law is a black law or a draconian law. There are two laws, PSA and then AFSPA, two black laws, draconian laws being implemented in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, a territory which has been declared disputed by the international community and the UN. What gives India, or how does India have the legitimacy or the mandate to implement a law which is considered to be a complete black and draconian law?
Gillani sir, there are not only these two laws, there is one more draconian law than these, that is called the UAPA. And there are, I think, dozen more laws which are being enacted by different agencies of India in occupied Jammu and Kashmir to subjugate the dissent or the voices of freedom in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. But having said that, we could see if there was a democratic country, if there were some people in India who could have some sort of shame in the 4 UPR cycles in the United Nations Human Rights Council, time and again, there were more than 66% recommendations from the Council to the Indian government to repeal this Armed Force Special Power Act, to repeal this Public Safety Act, and to sign, to ratify the Convention on Torture, to ratify the Convention on Enforced Disappearances. There were major allegations. They are not major allegations. It's true that what India has been committed. And similarly, the 2 reports of the United Nations Human Rights Council have explicitly exposed the India on these how India is making misuse of these counterterrorism laws. And the communications which I talked about earlier, that's the Special Rapporteur on promotion and protection of human rights while countering terrorism, Professor Bensal. He initiated that communication along with other 9 his colleagues. They made it clear to the government of India that the vague definitions of UAPA have made the life of the people of Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir hell. Not only the people in Indian-occupied Kashmir, but all the other people in India who are dissenting, who have a voice of dissent against the BJP and RSS regime.
Right.
So most recently, I can tell you that this UAPA is such a law. There was a story in Telegraph. There is a freedom of expression in Kashmir.
Sure.
But if you express and thereafter you are not free.
Right.
So after that, the UAPA is waiting for you. If UAP, then there is sedition. If you survive both of them, then the extermination is waiting for you.
Right.
So anybody, most recently we could see one of the journalists who posted a story in Al Jazeera about the profiling of mosques in Kashmir, profiling of imams in Kashmir, the way the Indian government started a fresh profiling of mosques in Kashmir. He filed the story how the government of India is taking all these steps in order to curb the freedom of religion in Kashmir.
Indeed.
And that journalist was arrested for 15 days. He was put behind the bars for interrogation and was asked to sign a bond that he will not do it again. And it was what we call community of journalists who came with a statement, and then government of India was forced to release him. But still, the ordeal he faced in the during the incarceration, he has talked to the Times of India, Sushani Haider. She reported only a few days back about it. So this is how India is dealing with all those who dare to speak in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. They are currently behind the bars. They are currently behind the bars. There is mass surveillance of the social media. You can't do anything on social media. You have seen the termination of government employees. Hundreds have been terminated from the service, and thousands are waiting for that, because already there has been investigation. And who is investigating? It is the government officer who is in case. There you have no recourse to any law, any court that you can do. Even the so-called Chief Minister of Indian-occupied Kashmir says the termination should be made through court, not through executive orders. But they are there. They are doing it because all the shots are called by the Delhi appointed Lieutenant Governor. The India, in order to mask that there is a democracy in Kashmir, people of Kashmir have voted, had an elected, so-called elected assembly and all that. But that elected assembly has no power to deal with the day-to-day lives of the people. They have no power on the police. They have no power on the financial.
It's a rubber stamp assembly, basically. Dr. Sobia, speaking of human exploitation, what seems to be the worst form of exploitation or atrocities or brutalities is the atrocities suffered by women, innocent women, and children. Women being widowed, children being orphaned, people being arrested, rounded up and pushed behind the bars without any reason, without any justification, desecration of religion, desecration of holy mosques. How does that present the overall scenario of this held valley in the eyes of the international community? Is it not enough to stir their conscience and make them do something really solid, substantive, and tangible with regards to at least putting an end to this constant genocide?
I think in this case, you have to see that it's very ironical that India is referred to as the largest democracy in the world, the largest democracy that is protecting human rights, which is allowing freedom of speech. None of that is present in Jammu and Kashmir's case. And the worst form of atrocities, the worst form of brutalities that can happen in this case is clearly the kind of victimization that is taking place against women and by virtue of them onto the children as well. I think India clearly understands that this is a Muslim community. It would be in any community, women are always sacred. But within a Muslim community, again, the sacredness which is associated with them, they are being deliberately targeted. So these kind of, I would say, intimidation, threats, harassment, sexual exploitation, everything, they're doing this as using these as weapons of war.
Sure.
And this can only happen in the worst case scenarios. And that is what India is doing in Kashmir, because there is no other way, in their opinion, to, kind of subdue the voices of the Kashmiri people. So any family of a person who is seen to be outspoken or is critical of the government or its policies, that not only is that person rounded up and persecuted, but also the entire family suffers as a result of this. And we have seen that, like you've already mentioned, that they are countless women who are now widowed. There have been reports by Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch of these mass graves that have been discovered. And so there are so many enforced disappearances. There's no track of those people. And so those women are left hanging in the balance in this case. And I think there's a lot of psychological trauma which is associated with that. These women cannot move on. The impact is, of course, on the unit of society, in this case, the families. The children are also suffering as a result of this. And I think the cases which are very notably, I think, recorded, the Kupwara incident where women, they were these raids where they took place. They went into these houses and women were clearly not only exploited, but also, brutally killed. So I think this is the worst case of, I think, persecution and the worst case of,
exploitation.
Absolutely.
Mr. Wani, speaking of weapons, India, of course, has been using all forms of weapons against innocent Kashmiris. But one weapon that they are now using is the weapon of water. They are weaponizing water. I'm referring to the violation, a complete disregard to the Indus Water Treaty that was signed between India and Pakistan, and World Bank remains the guarantor of this treaty. Yet we have seen that India, in complete disregard to the international laws and conventions, has unilaterally suspended and violated this Indus Water Treaty, which is completely unacceptable. So how is this going to be dealt with? How is Pakistan planning to tackle this issue of India using water as a weapon against Pakistan?
You see, Pakistan has already declared clearly that any thing violating the Indus Water Treaty will be treated as a aggression, or it will be treated as a war. There will be a response, equal response from Pakistan in that. Pakistan will go to any extent to save that, because in this water treaty, we are on the lower riparian. We have every right on that water. Pakistan has, and it has been negotiated by the International World Bank and their guarantors of it. So if India is allowed to do it, it's not the only one case scenario. There are some 300 some other case scenarios around the globe. Then the upper Aryans will stop the water of the lower Aryan people. So it will become a precedence all over the world. It cannot be left like that. And the main purpose of India of using this water as a weapon to make Pakistan, that Pakistan should give away and Pakistan should surrender before India, and Pakistan should not take the people of Kashmir to the international fora. Pakistan should not talk of the right celebration of people of Kashmir. And Pakistan, like all other nations like Nepal, Bhutan, others, who even those do not listen to India right now. But at one point of time, India thought that in this region, I am the whole power broker in this region, net security provider, what these students of international relations say, the net security provider of this region. That all myth has been exposed to the international community, that India is no more a security provider. India is itself a fragile state. It cannot provide security to anyone. And instead of India, now by the blessing of Allah, Pakistan has taken that role, that Pakistan can be a net security provider. And we
Absolutely.
have now seen that, like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and others,
Iran,
Iran, and now, and also the Bangladesh and
they're looking
other
towards
countries, and
Pakistan. Yeah,
they are looking towards Pakistan for their defense and other
yeah,
things. So but why India is doing? India thought at that point of time that there is a government at place in India who are hardliners, who think that they can do it, they can manage it, and they can create that Hindu Rashtra which they have thought. But
right.
their all dreams
Yeah,
shattered down on May 10th, and I could see that there is no more room for that. And I could see that now the way the things are shaping up around the globe, then Indians will have to think
right.
100 times about the events of this Indus
Indeed.
Water Treaty.
Yeah,
And
Mr. Wani has mentioned very eloquently about India getting increasingly isolated and alone at the global front. The most recent example of India trying to act as a regional hegemon is the false flag operation of Pahalgam.
Yes.
India tried to engage Pakistan in fight, and then Pakistan gave India a bloody nose. Operation Binyal Marsus turned out to be successful and
Yes.
made Pakistan proud in the eyes of the international community, and of course added to Pakistan's reputation as being a very strong and a very powerful state. Do you think India has learned its lesson in the backdrop of what happened after Pahalgam operation and then successful conduct of the Operation Binyal Marsus by Pakistan that defeated India?
I think for once, India has learned its lesson in this case. I think there is a much greater realization, and it has sort of been humbled, I think, in its ambitions to a certain extent. But, because of the way that I think you have to look into the broader Indian mindset to understand how they think, and keeping in view, especially the BJP government, the Modi, how he has been pursuing policies in India, especially if you look at in 2014 onwards, but specifically after 2019, when they won this overwhelming majority. I think from the very beginning, if you would allow me to state here,
Sure.
that this entire, it has been on, the BJP's manifesto. It has been part of their electoral campaign that they were going to, integrate Kashmir. It was not because of one isolated incident. It was part of the manifesto. It's
Sure.
part of the broader Hindutva
Yeah, yeah.
ideology that they pursue. So I think they have these grandeur ambitions of becoming a great power in this case. And I think, like Vansa mentioned here, that becoming a great power is an entirely different ballgame. Here, it's about them asserting themselves as a regional power. And I think even that has been challenged very much in this case. And India, being the largest state in South Asia, should have had a more accommodating attitude. That has not been the case. Instead, I think a lot of regional states are quite, I think they've been having hostile relations and facing hostility because of India. And so Pakistan, in that case, I think has been that very desirable balancing force in South Asia. Will India learn the lesson, or has it learned the lesson? In my opinion, in the short term, yes. And Pakistan needs to be constantly aware, and it should be prepared. And I think it is prepared.
Mr. Wani, Pakistan is not the only country that is pissed off or unhappy with India. We have seen that all the regional countries, including Sri Lanka, including Bangladesh being the most recent example, they're trying to distance themselves from India. They're trying to act because they realize that India is trying to keep us under its thumb. India is trying to act like a so-called big brother, but actually wants to suppress us. So we have seen that even the Bengalis, the Bangladeshis now building bridges with Pakistan. They are entering into defense deals with Pakistan. So India is sort of sidelined, completely given a cold shoulder by all the regional countries. What's your take on that?
You see, the Indian attitude, especially after this BJP government came into power, and the Modi mantra, which was that Modi hai to mumkin hai. It was made a slogan in India that Modi can make anything, he can do it. And the way they used first the religion and Kashmir as slogans to win the elections. On one front, this was their slogan to have their election win for electoral process. But at the same time, they tried to establish the government of their own in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka, in Nepal, and other places. You can see in a tiny little state like Maldives had to ask them to leave the Maldives, their Indian forces to leave the Maldives. So that was that they tried to intrigue everywhere. Because in the last 2 years, I could see 24, 25, India was exposed internationally for its transnational terrorism.
Sure.
The way the Indians were involved in transnational terrorism, the way Indians were spying for the Israelis. You have seen the Indian Navy men's arrest in Qatar. You could see the Indians being arrested in Germany. The Indians killed a Sikh leader in Canada, and we have seen the attempts on leaders in Pakistan, and they have killed many of the Kashmiri activists inside Pakistan. The Indian agencies did it, and that was the reason that the other countries, the neighboring countries, and the international world overall thought that this saffron terror is no more localized.
Absolutely.
Previously, when we were talking to the international community, that you are talking about the Muslim terror, Muslim radicalization, you are not talking about the saffron terror. They were telling it is a local issue, it's not an international issue. But in last 2 years, we could see it got internationalized. It spread over the everywhere in the all subcontinents of the world. We could see how Indians are being treated now in Australia. The way the hate against Indians has been developed because of these designers, because they have been spying, they have been doing all these things over there. So that is why the countries like Bangladesh, because we have seen a very famous uprising in Bangladesh against that Indian-backed regime, and that they were forced to leave. And then we saw also in Sri Lanka an uprising and a reconstruction mode now. The international community has come there, and likewise, but Indians always thought that Pakistan will behave like the same like the others, but now the others have started behaving like the Pakistan will.
Dr. Sobia, we have seen that over the years, Pakistan has been very magnanimous, generous in terms of going an extra mile to persuade India for dialogue over Kashmir to find a solution that is acceptable to the Kashmiri people. Every time our offer of peace has either been shrugged off or been misconstrued as our weakness. But lately we have seen that there was an incident where the Indian minister came and shook the hands with Pakistan's Speaker of the National Assembly. Does that drop a hint of India sort of deviating from its traditional stubbornness and rigidity and actually giving a serious thought towards entering into talks with Pakistan involving Kashmiris to find a peaceful solution to the issue of Kashmir?
It's an interesting question. Pakistan has always offered peace, has always preferred dialogue to resolve its issues, in all outstanding issues with India, including the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. That has been our principal stance in this case. India, I think, India has always said that we are willing to talk to Pakistan. Previously, that is that stance, excluding the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, because Kashmir is an internal issue of India. And first of all, that stance in itself does not hold any weight, because that the issue of Kashmir still sits with the United Nations, and it is still on its agenda very much. So it's not an internal issue, no matter whatever kind of political engineering that they do to merge it in. Insofar as a dialogue with India is concerned, I think the composite dialogue has been suspended for far too long. The CBMs were there. I think they have, from Pakistan's side, I think there's a lot of political will. We want to do it. Every successive government, frankly, no matter what their political affiliation has been, they've always, I think, offered dialogue. The problem with India is, I think, especially with this government that we have, their entire, I think, voter base is built on anti-Muslim and anti-Pakistan agenda. Indeed. So it is very unlikely that they would like to come across and speak to Pakistan. And if you look at how they have always, looked at Pakistan, if you might have seen that they did not even like this term Indo-Pakistan. They said, no, it should be Af-Pak, because Pakistan should be clubbed with Afghanistan in this case. And India is maybe, far ahead in this case. I think unless they do not get out of their superiority complex in this case, and they do not treat Pakistan with respect. I think, and again, at this point in time, I think for Pakistan, we must negotiate from a position of strength, where we are respected as equal partners in this case.
Mr. Wani, now just towards the end, I would like to ask you, we have just entered the new year. Keeping in view the regional dynamics and the international order, what are you expecting from this year? Is it going to bring any change, any substantial development is going to take place with regards to the issue of Kashmir? Are you expecting any CBMs? Are you expecting improvement in the atmospherics? What are you expecting for this year to bring to us?
This is such a question which always one thinks that such things could happen.
Right.
But looking at the Indian attitude, the way the Indian setup, which is currently ruling the India, I don't think see those coming to near to any dialogue currently.
Okay.
But having said that, at the same time, the way the India is being on one way sidelined in each and every international forum, that could force India to some way to have some reciprocity in the offer which we have already made, that there should be, Pakistan has already made that we are ready for a dialogue, maybe by a third force, that as President Trump has time and again said, and that President Trump has used the lever of economy, tariff, very hard on each and every element. So I think that can be a lever whereby that, because always we see it is responsibility of the United States and the West, who have themselves drafted those resolutions for Kashmir in the UN Security Council. Otherwise, at that time, the people of Kashmir were marching ahead and Maharaja forces, Indian forces were running away. But it was that ceasefire which was held at that time. And so those are responsible for that, and they have to play a part in it. And on one hand, on the other hand, to see the human sufferings in Kashmir, the way they are happening, and to put a halt on those human sufferings, I think the international community will have to speak, although there is a very huge awareness in international civil society, in international academia, what India is and what India is doing in Kashmir, but the political governments will have to come forward and to see it.
I would like to ask you the same question, Dr. Sobia. He's putting it in a very positive paradigm, because of course atmospherics have changed. As mentioned by Mr. Wani, the world is now more aware than ever before of the gravity or the severity of the situation. Keeping that in mind, are you cautiously optimistic of any major development about Kashmir, or you think that the status quo will prevail?
I think one must always be optimistic, and the door to negotiations must always remain open. And they have, I mean, if you see it even through wars and armed conflicts, the door to negotiations always remains open. So I think Pakistan must pursue that. Pakistan must continue to highlight the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. And I think there's a little bit of hope with the fact that when we see even in parallel the issue of Palestine, which was, on the cold storage for a very long time. And now we see that, there was a lot of hopelessness on that case. And now we see that the international community is waking up. It is paying attention. And so for Pakistan, I think this is also an opportunity to highlight this issue. And we should go ahead. We should encourage negotiations. But at the same time, as I said, we need to be realistic about it. The international politics is more about realism in this case. And I think there has been, if you look at the latest development, there's been a return to great power politics. And the rules-based order is now undergoing a transformation. Nonetheless, it is a world of strength and power. And so Pakistan needs to be strong in order to advocate in a very, I think, resilient and convincing manner on the international stage.
Well, on this very cautiously optimistic note, I would like to thank both of you for being part of the show and sharing your very incisive, very candid and very balanced analysis with us, and giving us a deeper insight of where the issue actually stands right now, what is the international community thinking, how is India behaving. And of course, with this, we have to now wrap up the program. Thank you very much once again for being on the show, both of you. With this, we come to the end of this special podcast by Radio Pakistan's News and Current Affairs channel in connection with the Kashmir Solidarity Day, which is observed every year on the 5th of February. Now, the fact of the matter is that no matter how long India continues to drag its feet over the issue of Kashmir, Pakistan, Pakistan's people, Pakistan's institutions will continue to extend all possible diplomatic, political and moral support to the Kashmiris, and Pakistan's support for Kashmiris remains unshakable and unflinching. With this, it's time to say Khuda Hafiz to you for now. Thank you very much for watching the podcast. Khuda Hafiz.
ये रेडियो पाकिस्तान पॉडकास्ट है।